wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan, Rahayu. His Excellency, the Vice Rector of Finance and General Affairs, Universitas Terbuka, Profesor Dr. Ali Muktianto, SAMSI, Her Excellency, the Dean of the Faculty of Economics, Universitas Terbuka, Dr. Mairani Harsasi, SAMSI, Her Excellency, the Vice Dean of Finance and General Affairs, Faculty of Economics, Universitas Terbuka, DRA Ani Meilani MSI, Her Excellency, the Vice Dean of Academic, the Faculty of Economics, Universitas Terbuka, Dr. Kurnia Endah Riana, Her Excellency, the Vice Dean of Collaboration and Student, Faculty of Economics, Universitas Terbuka, Ibu Olivia Idrus, SAMSJ, Her Excellency, the Head of Accounting Study Program, Faculty of Economics, Universitas Terbuka, Ibu Yeni Widyastuti, SAMSI, Her Excellency, the Head of Public Sector Accounting Study Program, Faculty of Economics, Universitas Terbuka, Ibu Ratna Marta Dewi, SAMACC, and also Honorable Speaker, Professor Dr. Nafsiah Mohamed. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, and we have participants attending online as well. Good morning to you all. A very warm greetings to each and every one of you. Welcome to Visiting Professor with the topic Fraud Mitigation and Ethics in Public Sector, here in Auditorium FST, Universitas Terbuka. Today, on the 24th of February 2023. On behalf of the organizing committee, we extend our appreciation for your presence today. This program was attended by UT lecturers and also lecturers at UPBJJ from Indonesia via Zoom meeting. This program is also broadcast live via YouTube UT TV. Before we begin this program, let us pray according to each religion and belief. Pray begins. Pray finish. The Visiting Professor program today was held with support from the Faculty of Economics, Universitas Terbuka. Next, I will read out the agenda first. Today's agenda consists of first, the welcoming speech by Dr. Mairani Harsasi, SAMSI, the Dean of the Faculty of Economics, Universitas Terbuka. Second, the speech by the Honorable Speaker, Professor Dr. Nafsiah Mohamed, Professor Accounting Research Institute, Universiti Teknologi MARA, Malaysia. Third, the question and answer session, followed by closing. That's on today's program agenda. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, as a sign of respect to our beloved country, please stand for singing the national anthem of Republic of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya, followed by the hymn of Universitas Terbuka.
Di sanalah aku berdiri.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. And now, our first program in this opening, the welcoming speech from the Dean of the Faculty of Economics, kindly invited to the podium, Dr. Mairani Harsasi, SA, MSI.
Thank you, Sila. Good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dear Honorable, our speaker, Professor Nafsiah Mohamed, Dear Honorable Vice Rector for Finance and General Affairs, Bapak Halim Dedi Perdana, and all audience, lecturers of Universitas Terbuka. Alhamdulillah, this morning we are able to gather here in very happy atmosphere. We have a visit from our guest who is familiar to us, Professor Nafsiah Mohamed, who will share about mitigation and ethics of fraud in the public sectors this morning. Today, Prof. Nafsiah is delivering the material, especially for our lecturer of accounting program and also financial accounting of public sector. And as we remember, she has visited us several times. Her last visit is about last year, Prof. Naf. Last year, and at that time, she inspired us through her book entitled Success Story of a PhD in Passing Her Dissertation Without Any Correction at the University of Aberdeen, UK. I remember that moment, Prof. Naf. So this morning, we invited again Prof. Nafsiah to provide or share her knowledge about fraud in the public sector, which maybe some of us are not familiar with this term. For example, what is fraud in public sector's organization, how this happen, or maybe the risks of fraud in public sector, and so on. So in this very good occasion, please take attention to what Prof. Nafsiah will give us, so it can enhance our insight about fraud in public sector organization. This event was held under collaboration between Faculty Economics of Universitas Terbuka and the Accounting Research Institute, or ARI, Universiti Teknologi MARA, Malaysia. So this kind of collaboration will have positive values for both institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, events like this are very important for us as academics. We also have to improve our skills, our knowledge in our scientific fields so that we always catch up with its development in practice. Many practices in fraud may have occurred in many agencies, so broader understanding about this matter from many parties will be a benefit to prevent and overcome this kind of fraud, even in public sector organizations. Lastly, I would like to thank the committee for their extraordinary work in organizing this seminar. I wish a great success of this event and look forward to fruitful discussion and enjoy this session. Thank you. Good morning and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Ibu Rani, for the welcoming speech. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. So that was the opening speech of visiting professor program today. And for now, we are going to continue with the speech of the honorable speaker with the topic fraud, mitigation and ethics in public sector. To discuss this topic, we are very honored to have the presence of Professor Dr. Nafsiah Mohamed, Professor Accounting Research Institute, Universiti Teknologi MARA, Malaysia, among us, as a speaker and expert in this field. And this session will be led by Ibu Niwayan Marsha Satyarini, SST Par MPAR. Ibu Niwayan Marsha Satyarini is a tourism lecturer at the Faculty of Economics, Universitas Terbuka. She graduates double degree from STP Trisakti and Burapa University, Thailand. Her study focused on tourism destination management. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome our speaker, Professor Dr. Nafsiah Mohamed, and moderator Ibu Marsha on the stage. Ibu Marsha, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Sila. Good morning all. Good morning, Our Excellencies, Honorable Professor Dr. Nafsiah Mohamed, ladies and gentlemen, all the guests and all participants. Ladies and gentlemen, before Sila already introduced me, but I'll just introduce myself once more. My name is Niwayan Marsha Satyarini, and you can call me Marsha. It was really great pleasure to sit here with Professor Nafsiah, of course, this morning for moderating visiting professor program with the topic fraud mitigation and ethics in public sector. As we know, fraud mitigation in the public sectors involve identifying and preventing fraudulent activity that could result in financial loss or damage to the reputation of public institutions. Ethical considerations are important in fraud prevention. Ladies and gentlemen, first, I'd like to read a brief introduction to our public sector accounting expert, Professor Nafsiah. Her position right now is an honorary professor, Accounting Research Institute, ARI, Universiti Teknologi MARA, Malaysia, and her last education are Doctor of Philosophy in Accountancy, University of Aberdeen, UK, and her expertise in public sector accounting, focusing on forensic accounting, and her internal affiliation are visiting Professor Chungbuk National University, South Korea, advisor Association of Public Sector Accounting Educators Indonesia, advisor Forum Dosen Akuntansi Sektor Publik FDASP Indonesia, and also the last her publication about accounting and finance. Before the presentation, Professor Nafsiah begin, let me tell you how this session will work. Firstly, Professor Nafsiah will present the material for about 60 minutes. And following that, we will have a question and answer session for approximately 30 minutes. And finally, the session will be ended by a conclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, now allow me to welcome Professor Nafsiah. The floor is yours, Professor.
Okay, thank you very much, Buni Mayan, as the moderator. I'm also honored, to be sitting here with you and also to be sitting in front of all the distinguished lecturers of Universiti Terbuka Indonesia. Thank you very much, my dear friend, Budekan, for the brief introduction about myself, and also to our vice rector, Prof. Ali, very long close friend, and to whoever who knows me, either here or in any parts of Indonesia. Selamat pagi, selamat sejahtera, salam satu rumpun. First of all, thank you very much, Ute, kerana menjemput saya. It's a great pleasure to be invited to a very well-known university, not just in Indonesia but throughout the world. The Open University. So sitting here, giving a lecture is really an honor. Now, if you look at the topic today, you're talking about fraud mitigation and ethics in public sector. It's a very scary topic, actually, especially when it involves public sector. Either you still read the newspaper, because I think now everything is a touch of the button. The social media, every day, we're talking about fraud here and there, up and down. You just cannot run away from people talking about fraud, people being charged because of fraud and things like that. So where are we? Okay, what are we doing? Especially we are lecturers. So what are we doing at the moment? Are we just sitting down and just read? Or can we contribute something to mitigate fraud, from occurring, to reducing fraud from occurring, at least in our institution. You can't do it to the public because it's too large, but at least to the institution itself. Okay. Next. Next. Okay, these are the topics that I'll cover. You can see that there's a long list, but it won't be that long. Okay, just bear with me. Okay, next. Okay, what is fraud? If you talk about definition of fraud, there's a lot of definition, but I'm taking it from the recognized institution organization, that is the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. There are a few keywords here when we talk about what is fraud. The use of one occupation. Okay? The use of one occupation, meaning to say, irrespective where you are, either you are a lecturer, you are a clerk, you're a CEO or whatever, the position that you are holding now, you are using that position for personal enrichment, for personal use. That is very straightforward, because you have that position in the organization, you use that position for personal enrichment. And how do you do that? Through the deliberate, meaning to say purposely doing it, not because you're saying, oh, I accidentally commit fraud. There's no such thing as accidentally committing fraud. It is intentional, deliberate misuse or misapplication or misappropriation of the organization's property. Okay, so you are working in the organization and you are using the organization's property for your personal use, yeah, for your personal benefit. So that is a simple definition that is made by SCFC, which we need to know, yeah. Everyone, fraud is a crime. Please accept that. Whether it's a small crime, a big crime, fraud is always a crime. Yeah. So you need to know that, bear that in mind. So never commit fraud. Yeah. All right. So next. Okay, fraud in public sector. Why we talk about public sector? Because when we talk about public sector is the ruling government, yeah? And we talk about money being spent in the government, yeah? And it is very, very important, okay, when we talk about public sector, the first thing that comes into our mind is accountability. Because once, if you work in a public sector, your accountability, okay, the usage of asset, the usage of property, okay, need to be accountable. You need to be accountable for that. Okay, so when you say fraud in public sector, so meaning to say here is an abuse of power and authority by a civil servant or by someone who holds an important position in society. Okay, Ahmad Sarji was our Secretary General in Malaysia. So he is someone who's anti-corruption, yeah. So he says that receiving money or any kind of gratification, either directly or indirectly, okay, and we always say personal enrichment, but it also for the benefit of you yourself, your family, or your friends. Okay, so that is fraud. Okay, that is fraud. Now let's look at the next one, which I think is a bit scary. Okay, from research, it shows that who normally commit fraud. Okay, so 40% are employees. Who are employees? We are the employees. Okay, so don't say that, you know, we fall into that 40%. Okay, we commit fraud. And some people say surprisingly, but some say not surprisingly. Right? 25% are internal auditors. Yeah, so internal auditors, because they work for the organization. So there's a lot of cover up over here. And also external auditors. And if you add up both the auditors, you see that 45% of auditors, internal and external, commit fraud. Okay. And you have management, 20%. And then you have 10% from, you know, from the others. Yeah. So to me, this is very scary findings. Yeah. Scary in the sense that we're not just talking about 40% employees, but we are talking about 45% of people who that we trust, yeah, to take care of our property, our money, but they are the one who commit fraud. Okay. Next, impact of fraud. Definitely, when you talk about fraud, there will be a long list. If you want to find out more, you know, Google has a long list of impact of fraud. I'm just sharing of you a little bit. Financial loss, definitely. Yeah. If you take away, you know, the organization's property, the assets, and so on, definitely there'll be a loss. Okay, either directly or indirectly. I'll share with you some examples later. Distorting labor productivity in the organization. So definitely, productivity will be reduced. It will be distorted. Okay, when there's financial losses, meaning you can't do lots of activities because of shortage of funds. So this will be affected. This is something that worries everyone, is the reputation. Okay, so once someone in the organization is being charged for fraud, so everyone are fraudsters. So if any staff of UT, in Central here commit fraud, everyone in UT here are fraudsters. And this is the public's perception. Yeah, it's public perception. It's not that you commit fraud, but this is the perception. So meaning to say is that once fraud has been detected, it really tarnishes the reputation. It's very bad. It tarnishes the reputation. The reputation will go down the drain. Yeah, and then destruction of investors' confidence. Now, investors can be, either international or local, or it can also be suppliers and so on. Yeah, so they don't trust you. Yeah, if they find that that there's some hanky-panky in the organization, and then if they want to sell products to you, they might think twice or maybe thrice. Yeah, whether you are able to pay them or not on time. Yeah. Okay. Next. Now, these are the common types of fraud in public sector. Maybe some of you have come across this names. Yeah. Normally, when we talk about fraud, we equate fraud with corruption. Okay, so there is more than that. So the number one is misappropriation of assets, and then you have corruption, and revenue or assets improperly gained, and other misconduct. Okay, let's look at misappropriation of assets. Now, many of us tend to ignore about misappropriation of assets. Yeah. So when we talk about misappropriation of assets, what is this? Meaning to say you misappropriate the asset. Okay, let me just give you an example. Okay, now a very simple example. Here, a person is a driver of an official car of the organization. Okay, now the task or the duties of the driver is to do official things. Sending what do you call that? The lecturers or for official matters. Okay, now what happened here is that this driver, he has done all his work, so he's sitting down, and then suddenly his wife called him and said, I need to go to the market, we need to buy some stuff. So he said, okay, I'll pick you up. So he goes with all the jam and so on, go back home, pick up his wife, and then he goes to the market. So wait for his wife there, then pick her up again and send her back, and then back to office. Maybe it takes about 2 hours. Okay. Now to you, maybe it's okay. I mean, like at that moment, 2 hours, he got nothing else to do. Rather than he sits down or he sleeps, it's okay for him to go back, to do some personal things. But let me tell you, what he is doing is fraud. He is misappropriating the organization's asset. One thing, he is being paid, to be a driver to the organization, not a driver to his wife. Yeah. So that is one. He misappropriate that. Number two, meaning to say that the 2 hours that he spent, picking and sending his wife, the salary that is being paid, has been misappropriated. Even though the pay is very small, but it is misappropriation. Okay, that is one. Okay, number two, right? The car that he drives, and with the Jakarta jam, okay, the petrol that he used, So the petrol that he used, who pays the petrol? The organization pays the petrol. So that is for personal benefit. So that is the second misappropriation of asset. And on top of him, the tear and wear of the car tire, where he parks in the hot sun, the tear and wear and so on, the depreciation of the car. So all those are fraud, misappropriation of asset, which many of us do not know about it. If we know, we tend to ignore. So now that you know, so please disseminate this information. Yeah, to me, when you misappropriate asset, actually you are stealing. In bahasa kita kata mencuri itu tidak berkat. That's the thing. Yeah, so misappropriation is like you are stealing what is not yours. Okay. Then you have breach of trust, you have cheating, you have forgery, all these are considered as misappropriation of assets. Okay. Now, in Malaysia, I'm just giving you in Malaysia, for instance, okay, you, what do you call that? You claim overtime, okay, you work from 4 to 5. So from 4 to 9, from 5 to 9, you claim overtime. But what do you do from 5 to 9? You play games. You watch Korean drama. Or you go, you do something else except your work. Right? You are being paid for that 5 to 9. That is fraud. That is misappropriation of asset. Now, if you are saying that, I'm just doing a small, I mean, the amount that I'm taking from the organization is a very small amount. But you're talking about one person. If you're talking about 100 employees, 1,000 employees, 10,000 employees, that will be a loss to the government. Okay? So that this is one thing, okay? that has been happening. Okay, so I'm also a researcher, so it interests me. Okay, when we talk about misappropriation of asset, we did a research in Malaysia about this misappropriation of asset. In Malaysia, we have a ruling, issued by the government stating that, the employees or the civil servants, okay, they cannot misappropriate assets. And if you do so, it will be, there will be penalty on them. Okay. However, the penalty is not mentioned. What action be taken against them are not mentioned. Yeah. So what happened here is that people keep on misappropriating assets. So my research, okay, what we did, we got this study, yeah, on local government. So we chose one local government as a qualitative researcher. Okay, we interviewed about 20 employees and asked them, do you know that the ruling on misappropriation of assets exists in government? Majority says they do not know. And those who knew about it says that, well, the management just couldn't care less. Okay. Now, I was not happy with the answer. Okay, so I told my team, say, I think I need to support that answer. So why not we do a survey and we send it to all local authorities in Malaysia and see what will be the result. Okay, so that's the beauty of a lecturer. You do a research, and then once you got the result, you're not happy, then you do it some more. Doing qualitative. Why it happened? So it goes on like that. So when I got back the result from the survey, more than 90% says that they did not know that the ruling exists, right? So where did it go wrong? I'm still not happy with that. Why? Why they didn't know that it exists? But it is something that is not right. So when to look at their training modules, yeah. In the training modules, are the employees being trained in the training modules, do they have one module on introduction to fraud, understanding of forensic accounting? Is there such thing that, being introduced to the existing employees or the new recruits? No. Okay, so it's not there. So what can we say? So can we blame the employees if they commit fraud in relation to misappropriation of asset? So that is a question mark. Yeah, that's a question mark. And we as lecturers, I think we need to be aware of this. And I'm always, wherever I go, I always say that we as lecturers, we are the one who disseminate information, knowledge to our students, and we are the frontliners actually, right, to inform the students, because before they go off, to their world, to the career world, okay, we need to expose them. It doesn't have to be one subject in their curriculum. But while we are teaching the students, we should instill or inculcate, the understanding of fraud, understanding of ethical values, things like that. Yeah, so it is our duty as lecturers to do that. We don't have to be very formal to be in the curriculum. Okay, right. Next is corruption. Everyone knows what is corruption, right? If I ask you, have you committed corruption? Then definitely you'll say no. Yeah, nobody will say yes. It can be done through bribery or abuse of power. Now, it is interesting. People talk about corruption, but how serious is this corruption? And we always think that only the top management corrupt. What do other countries think about us? Okay. Now, I did some comparison, okay, about corruption, a perception index. Now, let's look at the next slide by ACFE. Now, every year, ACFE would do a global study on occupational fraud and abuse. Okay, so this is from last year's study. Corruption was the most common scheme in every global region, meaning to say that everyone corrupts. So everywhere in the world, there is corruption. That is based on last year's result. Okay, so let's look at the next slide. We talk about corruption perception index. Now, many people think that this perception index is no longer relevant. But to me, it is still very, very relevant. Right? Because why? Because we need to know what other people perceive us, what other people think about us. Yeah. So CPI is more on what, not just the public. You're talking about the tourists. You're talking about the World Bank. You're talking, from outsiders, how they perceive the public sector in our country. Okay. From there, then they will build the trust, okay, for them to come and invest and so on. Yeah. So when we talk about CPI, it is measured in two ways. One, you talk about score, where you have, like you are doing the exam, you have from 0 to 100. So you have 100%, which is very good. And then 0, you're highly corrupted. And then rank. So there are 180 countries in the world that the Transparency International, okay, did this study. So where does your country rank? Let's look. It's interesting. Yeah. Okay. So the next slide, you can see. Look at last year. This is the latest one. Last year, number 1 is Denmark. Okay. Look at the score. The score is always above 80. Okay. And Denmark is considered as a country without fraud, okay, because it ranks number 1, from around, like for ages. And when I compared 10 years ago, Denmark is still number 1. Okay. Look at our neighboring country, Singapore. It is top 5. Right? So people around the world perceive Singapore as a country that is free of corruption. Right? You look at the marks, yeah? Because not that no corruption happened, but let me just remind you that this is perceived, yeah, it's opinion from the public about the public sector in the particular country. Malaysia, if you can see for the past 5 years, not much change in terms of score. To me, average, yeah, 50, 49, 48, just pass. And you look at the ranking also in the middle, out of 180, 59, 60, 61. It's not good. Yeah, it's not good. Indonesia. What does other people think about Indonesia? If you look 10 years ago, 118 out of 180 countries. Yeah. And the score is only 32. So many people in the world think that Indonesia is a corrupt country. They perceive that, which I think that is not a good scenario. But it has improved. You see, it improves going up to the past 5 years, 89, and then 85, and then comes coronavirus came to visit us, yeah, and then it dropped again, rank drop again, and then last year it's on 110. Now let me tell you again, yeah, many people think that no, we cannot use this, yeah, we cannot use this. This is just a perception. Yes, it is a perception, but we need this perception, yeah, for us to improve ourselves. So people are saying that, you are a corrupt country. Everyone in your country are corrupt, which I think nobody likes that. Nobody wants that, right? 110, you rank. We do not want that. So what should we do? So we have to improve. Okay, we have to improve in what way? In educating people about what this fraud is all about, so that more and more people understand fraud, the implication of fraud, yeah, the impact of fraud to the individual, to the organization, to the country. And when more and more people understand this, then the tendency of not committing a fraud will be high. They say that if I commit fraud, this would happen, right? If it benefits me, but it would not benefit my organization, it would not benefit my country. So all this need to be explained, which I think it is not there yet. Okay, we don't really expose our students to this kind of information. Okay, which I think is very, very important if we want to mitigate, because here we want to reduce fraud. Okay? We want to fight. Okay, so how can we lecturers fight? Is through the knowledge that we have, right? So, and the knowledge that we have, who do we disseminate the knowledge to? To our students, or to lectures, special lectures that we give to the public, or we have seminars that we have, or we have like certain, should I say, exhibition where we open up pools and we have awareness campaign. This is one of the ways that we can, one of the strategies for us to mitigate fraud, yeah, as academician. Maybe government has other strategies, but they are, they are the policy makers. But we as academicians, okay, we need to do our part, yeah. Okay, other misconduct. So there is always this conflict of interest, especially when you talk about tender process and so on, and then leakage of confidential information. things that shouldn't be exposed are exposed, and so many other things. Yeah. So when we talk about fraud, don't just think about corruption. Okay. So you have misappropriation. Now I said you have corruption, and also you have other misconduct. So I like the word other misconduct. When you talk about misconduct, you specifically mentioned that is relating to a human being, right? So the weaknesses that the human being does, yeah, that we need to to find ways and means on how to ensure that this particular person would not commit fraud. Okay, right. Next. You see, when we talk about fraud, many researchers throughout the world, very interesting, how they describe fraud, how they think fraud is all about. There's so many. There's a long list of theories that they created relating to fraud. Yeah. Number one, they talk about tip of iceberg theory of fraud. So when you talk about fraud, and I'm sure you know an iceberg, only 1/7 is above the sea, 6/7 is below the sea. So you do not know what is below the sea. But that is the bulk of fraud that we did not dealt with. We only look at 1/7. So those who committed fraud, the 6/7, either they got away or we just ignore, right? The second one is the potato chip theory of fraud. Okay, there are researchers who felt that they equate with you eating potato chips. Right? I'm sure everyone loves to eat potato chips. Yeah? So I'm sure if you go to KFC or McDonald's, they don't just give you one potato chip on your plate. There'll be a few. Right? But when you eat one, this is delicious. You want another one, and you want another one, and you want another one, and you keep on eating the potato chips. This is just what some researchers think about people who commit fraud. Right? So once they have tried committing fraud, they are not caught. They commit some more. They commit fraud, they are not caught. They commit some more. And it goes on and on. It's just like eating potato chips. Okay. And number 3, you're talking about rotten apple theory of fraud, like the one that I've shown earlier. When one person commit fraud or being charged or being found, to be committing fraud, all those surrounding him or her affected. Okay? So the organization is tarnished, you get a bad name and so on. But actually, it's not the organization that commit the fraud, it's the individual. But because of the individual's action, okay, everyone there is affected. And the fourth one is low-hanging fruit theory of fraud. Okay, so if you're looking at the tree, there are low branches, you have high branches. So some of the fruits are hanging low, some are hanging high. Right? So normally those are caught, those hanging low. Yeah, if you want to eat fruits, rambutan especially, you just pick. It's low. But what about those up on the top? Yeah, it's difficult. Okay, either it's too high, you cannot reach it, or if you have the ladder, you have all kinds of instruments to get it, but you have all kinds of insects on the tree, that doesn't allow you to go further up. Now, that is just what fraud is all about. Meaning to say, those that is low, it's small fraud, easily being caught. But those up there, in order for you to catch the fraudster, you have to really have your ways and means, because they are fraudsters. Okay? They also have ways and means to get away from being caught. Okay? So these are what we call theories by researchers, about fraud that is happening in the country. Okay. Next, fraud detection. Okay. Once fraud happens, it occurs, it will be very, very expensive for you because you need to employ the forensic accountant, to investigate, because you need to uncover, who the perpetrator is. You need to uncover, what are the fraud, what are the losses that has been done, okay, what damage has been done. So the best is to detect it, prevent it from happening. Yeah. So prevention is better than once it's happened. Yeah. Now let me introduce to you when we talk about fraud. The next one, how do you want to mitigate fraud? Because fraud is a human being that commits fraud. Yeah. So what we need to do is we need to find ways and means on how to control these individuals. Okay? Now, researchers have come out with, at this moment, 4 fraud theories. Okay, can we look at the first one? So we have fraud triangle. So in 1953, we have Creasy. Creasy came out with this fraud triangle. So what Creasy did was he went to the prison and he interviewed 200 inmates who were charged. Yeah, they were convicted because of fraud. Okay, so he asked them, why do you commit fraud? Okay, under what circumstances that make you want to commit fraud? So out of all these 200, all of them, all these 200 say that because they're under pressure. Okay, they need the money. So they are under pressure. And then secondly, they see that there is opportunity. Maybe they are the cashier, maybe they look after the petty cash, or they have the opportunity to get hold of the money. And then they say that, oh, I'm just borrowing the money. Once I get my salary, I'll pay back. So they rationalize that. Right? And nobody see what I'm doing. Yeah, I can just manipulate. So they rationalize things. So according to Creasy, when he interviewed all these inmates, for fraud to happen, these 3 things need to be there: pressure, opportunity, and rationalization. Okay, so if you have only pressure and opportunity, no rationalization, fraud might not happen. I'm not saying that it would not happen, but it might not happen. But we are basing on Creasy's fraud triangle, where he says that fraud would happen when these 3 elements are there. Okay, so I did share with you the 3 factors. Okay, where we just go to the 3 factors. With one, talk about, you look at the fraud triangle. Okay, this is the fraud triangle. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so opportunity. So I did share with you here, what do you mean by opportunity? Meaning to say that the opportunity is there for you to commit fraud. Okay, maybe you talk about no security, or the internal control is weak, the way you can, just be anywhere in organization. Because when you talk about property or maintaining assets of the organization, it should not be done by one person, right? There must be some supervision and so on. So if it does not exist, no supervision exists in organization, opportunity is there. Okay? So examples of opportunity I share with you. There may be a long list again, but these are just some of the examples. The poor accounting records, ineffective distribution, which I've mentioned, and one person doing most of the work, yeah, because lack of staff, so only that person is doing. These are the opportunity that can lead to people committing fraud. Then you have pressure. Next slide. Pressure. What do you mean by pressure here? The forces of person to commit. Yeah? Pressure. So suddenly you have additional bill. Maybe you have to be admitted to the hospital, for expensive surgery. Maybe what do you call that? Your kids needs to go to private college and things like that. That you need money immediately. That is pressure. Okay. Some examples I've given to you. Next slide. So you have some financial problems, and then you have unexpected financial needs. And then sometimes people, we do not know, on the surface they're okay, but actually they are drug addicts or alcoholic and so on. So they need that extra. Yeah. Then we have rationalization, the third one. Here, involves the person reconciling his behavior. So he's saying it fine, it's okay. Everyone is doing it, so I'm also doing it. So nobody is watching, so it's okay. So they start, committing fraud. So I can give you some examples. Can you just go to the examples? Yeah, some examples. Rationalization. So in fraud triangle, for fraud to happen, these three elements need to be there. You're under pressure, you have the opportunity, and you rationalize it. Okay, so fraud will happen. However, right, if you ask us, because this is in 1953, okay, it's 1953. Okay, so in 2004, okay, things change. Wolf and Hermanson said that, well, maybe in 1953, the scenario is different. Now it's 2004. So he added another element. So he has the three element plus one, and he calls it the fraud diamond. Okay. Fraud diamond capability, right? So are you willing to do it? Yeah. Do you want to do it? So according to them, okay, there are 6 traits that make people capable of doing it. Yeah. Maybe because of their position, because I'm the boss, I'm the CEO, okay, I'm a head of the department. Okay. So I'm under pressure. I have the opportunity of committing. I rationalize, but it doesn't mean that I will commit fraud. Says that I'm capable of doing it, maybe because of my position. Yeah, because of my position, so I'm capable of doing it. Okay, intelligence and creativity. So because of my creativity, how I can conceal my fraud, maybe I'm capable of doing it. Ego, yeah, because well, you are always up there, right? And then suddenly, if you drop because you're under pressure, but you want to show off, that you always eat at, your lifestyle is always at the mall. So you want to maintain that. So your ego is there. So you are capable of doing it. Cohesion, yeah, deceit, and also because of stress. Okay, and also because of when you talk about capability, we are not just talking about this, yeah, we're also talking about the spiritual values. Okay, because maybe you have very strong spiritual values. You say, no, My religion says that no matter what, I must not commit fraud. So you are not capable of doing it. Yeah. Even though you have all those three elements of fraud triangle, but because of the capability element in terms of spiritual, then fraud would not happen. Yeah. So again, Tracy says that if you have these three, fraud would happen. But under fraud diamond, it doesn't mean that way. Yeah, it can be if your capability has all these strong traits, then maybe you're capable of doing it. Then in 2012, 2012, Howard is not happy. So he came out with fraud pentagon. Okay, so he agrees with Tracy. He agrees with pressure, rationalization, and capability. Pressure, opportunity, and rationalization. Can we go to pentagon? Okay. So he agrees with the three, but he says he add another two, arrogance and competence. Yeah. So these two additional elements, okay, if it exists in an individual, in a situation, that person might commit fraud. Yeah. So the person might commit fraud. So let's look at competence. What does it mean? Talk about competence. Okay? The individual is in a position within the organization, and when something goes wrong, they try to conceal it. You see, that person is someone that you don't expect to commit fraud. That person is very competent, very hardworking. Right? So with that position that he or she has, they are capable of committing fraud. So they can conceal that. They commit fraud. I don't think that person will commit fraud. No, that person is competent in their work. Okay, so that is what fraud pentagon is all about. Yeah. Then they got that these individuals surround themselves with those who can be controlled. So meaning to say, they have people, they are subordinates that they can control. So they can cover, they can conceal. Okay, so if they can do that, if you have someone who can do that, the chances for the person to commit fraud is there. Okay. Then you have arrogance. Arrogance, I think, is just like in fraud diamond, because of the arrogance. Okay, because of you want to be above the rest. You want to show off. Okay. You need to drive an imported car. You need to eat at restaurants and so on because of the arrogance that you have. Once they're under pressure, right? And then they have the opportunity, they would commit fraud. They would commit fraud. Okay. And then in 2019, this is in 2019, this is the latest. And I'm sure after this, maybe some of you, lecturers, if you conduct lectures in, research in fraud, maybe you come up with fraud octagon, one day. Maybe that will be, what do you call it? It would be something interesting. Elements that only apply to the Indonesian community, fraud octagon, for instance. Okay, so these are elements that would trigger people to commit fraud. As you can see, stimulus or pressure, same. Rationalization, talk about ego, still ego, arrogance, and then we talk about opportunity. But one of the things I think that is something new is collusion. smart partnership. Okay? Collusion is an agreement, but I always say a smart partnership, either between your colleagues. Do it. Don't tell anyone. It's only between both of us. Yeah, profit sharing 50-50. So if there is the smart partnership, so maybe what do we call that? The fraud can be done quicker, and then can be concealed faster, and not many people would know. Yeah, or you collude with the supplier, yeah, with creditors or whoever. Yeah, so the collusion is there. All right. So all this, okay, when we talk about all these theory of frauds that I've mentioned, there are 4 to this date. Right? All this involve human beings. So if we want to mitigate fraud, we need to look on how we want to control a person from committing fraud. Right? So if we look at all those 4, we cannot control a human being from ego, for instance. Can you measure ego? Can you see ego? Can you measure rationalization? Can you see what's in his head? What is he thinking? We can't. Okay? But when we talk about collusion, for instance, it's a smart partnership between A and B. That normally is done physically. So maybe, okay, what we can do, maybe we have an inspector gadget, yeah, to be there, you have your CCTV and so on, and you have trustworthy people to be around, okay, to ensure that this will not happen. Okay, an opportunity, for instance, opportunity meaning if it's a weak internal control system, make sure you improve on that, make it strengthen the internal control system. Okay, if we're talking about security, for instance, yeah, how is the security in the organization? Who can go in and out? That you can improve, okay, to mitigate fraud. But for you to control a human being, it's not easy. Yeah, I don't use the word it is difficult, but I like to use the word it is not easy. Though it means the same, but it's better to say it's not easy. So to mitigate, right, you got to improve on existing controlling system. So, okay. Now, how are we going to mitigate or control the human being? To me, educate them, give them knowledge, give them awareness. They commit fraud, maybe they know, maybe they do not know. Okay? One thing, when we know that if we commit fraud, there is a penalty to it. Some people, when they know they have to pay a certain amount, if you commit fraud, you have to pay 100 billion rupiah. So, it's like, oh, I won't do it, If they know the penalty that if you commit fraud, even a small fraud, you can say you will go to prison for at least 3 months. Then they won't commit fraud. So this kind of awareness, okay, are not being disseminated. I'm not sure whether it exists or not in the organization, in public sector, because normally when we talk about fraud and so on, okay, if you commit fraud, you call in the forensic accountant, then it goes to court, and it's the court that determines, what is the penalty. But within the public sector entities, normally it's more on disciplinary actions will be taken against them. But again, what kind of disciplinary actions will be taken against them? Okay, it needs to be documented. It got to be not harsh, but it got to be there for them to know that, oh, this is serious. Even if I just steal 100,000 rupiah, I would be sent to prison for 3 months, something like that. So this kind of what do you call that awareness, okay, should be introduced. I know it is not there yet. Okay, I'm just giving examples. It should be there as a barrier, a barrier for people not to do it. Yeah. Rather than we control them, we have CCTV and see whether they're committing fraud or not. Okay. We from the beginning itself educate them, give the knowledge, yeah, about the seriousness of committing fraud, the implication to the organization, and keep on reminding. Maybe you have your news bulletin, maybe you have your head of department. Sometimes they have like monthly talk, they have monthly meetings. So highlight these every meeting, about not committing fraud, and during your classes, instill this in your students. While you're talking, maybe you're teaching marketing, you're teaching management, economy, accounting, but they will be working in the what do you call that? Their workplace can be private sector or it be public sector. So they will be facing this kind of scenario, this kind of environment. So you make them aware, yeah, about the seriousness of this crime. It is a crime. Okay, right. So let me just introduce you a little bit, because when we talk about fraud, you cannot run away from forensic accounting. Yeah. So what is forensic accounting? So I purposely look at two dictionary. Yeah, two dictionary, simpler to understand, because if we look at definition by researchers, it'll be very, very long. So forensic itself, what does it mean? Used in or suitable to courts of law or public debate. And the other one, it says belonging to, used in, suitable to courts of judicature or to public discussions and debate. Now, what I want to show you here is that when you talk about forensic, you cannot run away from courts of law. Okay. So if you're talking about a dead body, a corpse, yeah. So normally, when the police do forensic, yeah, postmortem, meaning to say there's something wrong with that person. Maybe someone killed that person. Normally, a normal postmortem, they won't say forensic. It's just normal postmortem to find out how that person died. Yeah, maybe of heart attack or something like that. But when it involves the police, when the word forensic comes into the picture, then we are dealing with courts of law. Okay. Next, please. So what is forensic accounting? So you cannot run away when you talk about fraud. Okay, either you are from the accounting faculty, business management, or whatever. You need to know what is forensic accounting, yeah, to explain further on fraud to your students. So it's the integration of accounting and investigative techniques to produce analysis suitable for use in courts of law. Forensic accounting evidence is oriented to a court of law. You see, meaning to say that if there is forensic accounting, if you call in the forensic accountant, at the end of the day, so be careful with that. Yeah, be careful with that. So it is an integration between accounting. Okay, so if you have your students who wants to be forensic accountant, they got no choice, but they have to be a qualified person in the accounting profession, and then maybe they learn the investigative skill. Yeah, the investigative skills normally, they you can learn throughout. Meaning after you have the accounting, what do you call that? Knowledge. What about investigation? Investigate. What do you do? Yeah, these are forensic accounting, a set of ideas. Now, this is what forensic accounting does. Yeah, it doesn't. A set of ideas and methods that go through accounting data, and all these will be used in court. Okay, so when they carry out this, so it will be used in courts. Okay, then next. Okay, as you can see, it looks at documents, financial and non-financial, in order to draw conclusions and to identify irregular patterns and or suspicious transactions. Okay, so forensic accountant does not merely look at the numbers, but rather looks behind the numbers. So the word, yes, when you say accountant, okay, accountant, all numbers, but they're just not looking at the financial statement or the cost documents and so on, but they interview. Okay, and the beauty about this forensic accountant is that when they are called in, they can interview anyone under the sky. You know, they can interview anyone in the country, they can interview anyone outside the country to get information about a particular case. Next. What is the objectives of forensic accounting? Okay. Two. Only two. To uncover fraud. When there's fraud, the purpose is to uncover it. And secondly, to uncover the identity of the perpetrator. Who did the fraud? Because when fraud happens, nobody wants to say that, oh, I did it. No, nobody wants to say that. So you need someone else to investigate, get evidence, and to prove that that person. You know, sometimes you think, you know, you can think that you can say that I think that person, but you don't have proof. So you need a qualified person to do that job for you. Okay, next. Okay. So forensic accounting encompasses two: litigation and investigation. Just sharing with you because what I'm trying to highlight from the beginning, yeah, from the definition until now, I want to show you the seriousness of fraud. Yeah. So you talk about litigation support. The word litigation relates to law, relates to courts of law. Okay. And forensic accounting relates to investigation. Okay, you like it or not, you will be investigated. So litigation here. So whatever data is will be used in court, and the forensic accountant will be called as an expert witness. If you're an auditor, you are called to court. You know, what you say, the value of words that you say is very, very small. Yeah, but a forensic accountant's words, yeah, carries a lot of weightage because they are considered as expert witness. Yeah. Next. Okay, so this is investigation. What do? They conduct in-depth interviews. In-depth. That means they will dig and they will dig and they will dig. They will go all out. Kalau dalam bahasa Melayu kita kata hingga ke lubang cacing, you know, they go in depth to get information because that information would later be evidence to the case. Evaluate the credibility of witnesses and statements, and when they interview, okay, the duty of the forensic accountant to really evaluate whether what the witness say, okay, can be used in court. Is there any value to what the witness say? They themselves would evaluate, yeah, the witness's statement. And through interviews, it will lead them, you know, to further connections. That is where they say, oh, you know, they interrogate one person, and then the person will open up, and from Indonesia there's someone in Malaysia, and then from Malaysia then there's someone in Thailand, and then it goes to Russia, and so on. So we'll open up. So the forensic accountant, they will go, to wherever, to get information, and then they also tap into industry and government resources. Yeah, so meaning to say, to find out what are the losses, what kind of losses has been lost, the damages, and things like that. So they would investigate in detail. Yeah. Okay. Now, what I want to show you here is that maybe some of you are familiar with financial auditing. Some of you are familiar a little bit about fraud auditing, but many are not familiar on forensic accounting. So how does this three relate to each other? Now, when an organization, be it public or private sector, so at the end of the year, once all the operations have been done, then they will prepare the financial statement. Then the financial statement needs to be audited. Yeah, then it will be audited by the auditor. And normally we say the financial auditor, because they audit the financial statement. Now, while the financial auditor audits the financial statement, went through, look at all the balance sheet, yeah, and then look at the financial performance statement, and then when you look at the salary, the emoluments, then the auditor finds that there's something not right, something is fishy. So they look at the list of employees, and then they start to calculate, the salary, and it doesn't match to the emoluments that is being stated in the financial statement. So they felt that something is not right. So the financial auditor will then inform the management, yeah, and say that, I think there's something not right with emoluments. So we need to call the fraud auditor, meaning to be someone who's expert in that. So the fraud auditor will come in, yeah, and then would only do an audit on that particular area, emolument. Right? So they will audit, they will check, they will all the documents pertaining to that. Okay, so only on emoluments. Yeah, and then after going through all the documents, the fraud auditor says that yes, there is fraud. I mean, this is an example, yeah. There is fraud. So they discuss with the management. So how serious is the fraud? This is the dilemma of the auditor. Yeah. Now, should we expose it, or should we just cover it, conceal it? So that is between the management and the auditor. Right? Should we expose it? So if we expose it, meaning to say, call in the forensic accountant. Now, the minute the forensic accountant is being called to the organization, automatically people perceive that something wrong with the organization, right? And something wrong here refers to is bad news. Right? It's very serious. This will be a court case. So before the forensic accountant does his work, the company's reputation has already been done. So that is the dilemma here, all right? Whether to call in the forensic accountant and uncover the perpetrator and send that perpetrator to court, or to take only disciplinary action. It all depends, yeah, on the management. Right? So that is how it is done. You do the financial audit first, and then if there is something not right, something fishy, call in a fraud auditor. Fraud auditor will do detailed evaluation, and then if the fraud auditor says yes, there is probability there is fraud, then the forensic accountant will be called. Yeah. Or otherwise, if the fraud auditor says that, I think the amount is not that huge, yeah. So maybe you don't have to call in a forensic accountant. So we can do it here, and then calculate, the losses, and And then maybe, we can identify who the perpetrator is, and maybe some disciplinary action is taken. Yeah. Okay. So that is the flow in forensic accounting. Okay. This is interesting. Now for those, please look at your screen. To be a forensic accountant, you must be creative. Your mind must be creative. So what do you see here? Do you see an old woman or you see a young girl? For 15 seconds, look at it. So if you are able to see an old woman and also a young girl, you have a very creative mind, right? You'll be a very good investigator. Okay, so see that? Right, 15 seconds. Yeah, some say no. But surprisingly, sometimes, when I give talks, when I showed, to the audience, it's the ladies that can see, the guys normally a bit slow in saying, I do not know why, it's the ladies that can see. Okay, next. Yeah, what do you see? You see a woman or you see a skull? So normally people will see the skull first, right? But you look at it carefully, evaluate the image, and you will see a woman there, looking through the mirror. Okay. Okay, the last one. Okay, the last one, very interesting. How many legs does the elephant have? Okay. Look at it carefully and see how many legs. Okay. Now, surprisingly, you have to think about it. You have to think when I ask you how many legs does this elephant have? If I give to my students, they will say 5, 6, 7, 8. Elephants always have 4 legs. They never have 5, 6, or 7. Okay? So what am I trying to tell you here? Facts are facts. You cannot run away from facts. Okay? If you're wrong, you are wrong. If you're right, you are right. Okay? So elephant has 4 legs forever. Okay? So if you sit down and look at it and then you write 4 or 5, think it over. Right? Think it over. Okay? So I think that's the last slide that I have. So I end with that scenario. So I do hope that you get a clear explanation about what fraud is all about. Before we can mitigate fraud, we ourselves need to understand what is fraud, and then only we can mitigate or reduce it from happening. We can't just say, we want to do a research on fraud mitigation without understanding what fraud is all about. Okay, so with that, thank you very much. So if anyone, either here or anywhere, would like to know more about fraud, forensic accounting in public sector, or any other issues, you can email me at this address. Yeah, I will try my very best to assist as much as I can. Thank you.
Okay. Please give a big applause for Professor Nafsiah. Thank you very much, Professor Nafsiah, for giving such an informative and comprehensive presentation. Honestly, it was really a fresh knowledge for me about fraud. But due to the limited time, because today is Friday, I think the Q&A session from this auditorium, I can give one question first, and then participants on Zoom, please type your question on chat box, or maybe one from chat box, and then after that, if we have time, we can add more questions. Okay, from this auditorium, maybe one questions. Okay.
Thank you, Prof. Nafsiah. Very interesting topic. My name is Rini Yayupriyanti. Actually, I'm not in accounting department, but economics department, so maybe our point of view is a bit different. What I understand is that I'm talking about research in fraud or corruption in particular. It's very difficult to do because I remember having I had a friend. We did PhD together, and she did research on corruption, something like that, and she never finished her PhD, unfortunately, because I always ask her, why is it? She said that all the data on corruption is based on perception, right? Yeah, we never have data for corruption because if we have data on corruption, then the corruption is solved, right? Yeah, we have the data on corruption that is caught, but not the actual corruption actually. So everything she tried, every methodological statistically, every statistics methods that she tries fail. So it's very difficult because the data is not consistent, like something like that. So she couldn't make any conclusion, or she, in short, she didn't finish her PhD because of that. So if we interested in doing research on corruption, for example, what is a suggestion?
Okay, that's interesting. To me, the main thing, when you do a PhD, you got to know, when you do a PhD, you are not solving a problem. Maybe some of us think, okay, when we do a PhD, we need to solve something. PhD again is a doctor of philosophy. You are trying to find out why things happen that way. To me, it goes back to your RQ and RO, your research question and your research objectives. What actually that you want to achieve. Okay, that is the main thing, right? Now, from there, then only you come with your methodology. Because I'm not so sure about your friend how she goes about collecting the data, but to me, definitely nobody wants to say that I commit fraud, I do corruption and so on. But I think at PhD level, it's not so much on solving it, but to find out more in depth. Let me share with you my students' research, on corruption in Malaysia. What happened is we found out that government comes up with all kinds of initiatives, to commit fraud, and specifically corruption. So for years and years, we have this, and we also have, like in Malaysia at that time, it was this transformation program that we have. So we have all this, but corruption still exists. So why? Where did it go wrong? Okay, so that was the interest. The question is why after several initiatives that the government did, after spending so much money, but corruption still there. So that was the research question. So we come up with our research objectives and how we want to do it. So what our purpose is to find out why corruption keep on happening. So that is what we want to find out. So from our study, we found out some theories and so on. Sorry, I can't remember the name of the theory, but first of all, we look at how the initiatives were being developed, So they have the regulators, they are meeting, who are these people? You have the anti-corruption agency personnel, you have the police, you have all these people there, and then from there they will come up with the drafts, and then from the draft, so they will come out with, they will take some time to come up with the initiatives, right? Then once the initiative is done, then it goes down, principal, go to the agent, to the implementers, and how you want to implement this. So our next step is to ask the implementers, okay, you are the one who implement this, these programs and so on, to inculcate, this, what you call that, the knowledge, about not doing corruption and so on. So one interesting thing that we found out from the implementers is that they are not being called when the initiatives were designed. So we call the designers, when they design the initiatives, they design based on their perception. I think if we do like this, it will be good. I think, they don't take into consideration the implementers' opinions. Okay? So we interviewed because I did on qualitative, we interviewed, lot of these implementers, one, and all of them say the same thing. Okay, so at the end of the day, our findings show that why initiatives are not effective at the end of the day, because they are not being well disseminated, being made aware to the implementers, so they do not know how to do it. So corruption, so meaning to say, as implemented, if corruption does, what actions to be taken? They do not know. Okay, if to prevent corruption from happening, what do you do? What actions you need to take? They do not know. Okay, because the initiatives that were being created do not take into account their opinions. Yeah. So at the end of the day, so there is this theory, I can't remember, sorry, that says that what do you call that? When you are designing in the public sector, you are designing policies or programs and so on, you need to take into account not just the top management. You got to take into account those who are directly related, to get opinions from them so that it will be effective. Okay? So my question, my RQ at the end is answered because of that. Yeah. So that is what I'm trying to say. So the PhD that your friend is doing, what is the research question? What is the main thing that she wants to find out? Okay? If she wants to test, the number of people, corrupt a day, a week, and things like that, definitely you will not get. But you must, the research questions must be realistic, and it must be, should I say, achievable. At the beginning of this, of your PhD stage. Now, for those who have not done your PhD, your research objectives, you must be, I always say, it must be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Yeah. So must be there. So we got to, got to look back. Yeah. So here, if you want to do a research in corruption, yeah, you can do research in corruption, but what is the thing that you want to find out? Okay. So I think questions like, do people commit fraud, commit corruption in your organization, and so on? You definitely would not get any response. But maybe, you can ask indirect questions, right? When you talk about fraud, maybe what actions are being taken, in the organization. Do you have any guidelines? Do you have any, from there, then you interpret. Okay? So if you cannot get the answer directly, then you do indirectly, and then you do interpretation. Then you can. So otherwise, it is difficult. Research in fraud, for instance, is not easy. People will not cooperate, definitely. Right? But you can do it. You can do it, but you got to be creative, okay, in obtaining the data. Okay? Sometimes you cannot be very straightforward. Yeah? You got to be leeway here and there. You got to be creative, come up with questions for you to obtain, and from that question, it might be indirect, but from there you can make assumption. Okay.
I did, and my friend did economics. Not, yeah. So we work with like huge pile of data, something like that. Sometimes cross country data. So it's very different. But it was like many years ago. Back then, qualitative research is not like now. Yeah. So maybe if it happens today, maybe we can. Maybe I will suggest her to do like qualitative research rather than quantitative. Yeah. Thank you, Professor.
I mean, maybe your friend can look back at the research, the PhD research, and then maybe can replicate and improve on it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, maybe this is the last questions because of the limited time. Okay, from YouTube or Zoom, committee, please bring the question up. Okay, from Gururi Andriani. Okay, how does social expectation or value influence individual, especially government official, to conduct fraud? For example, once in a year, we ask to give donation for donation independence celebration. If a high status government officials give a relatively small amount of money, not only will he be accused as stingy but also stupid, because as high status government officials, he should and could give more at all costs. Okay. Maybe Prof. Nafsiah can make it a short answer. Okay.
I'm not so sure about this, because here we are talking about donation. Yeah, we talk about donation. You got to be sincere in whatever, whether small amount or big amount. And how does social expectation influence individuals, government officials to conduct fraud? I can't see, the relationship between giving donations to committing fraud. Yeah. So if you want to give, just because you hold a high rank, you want to give less, and then to me it doesn't matter. But honestly, I don't see the relationship between fraud and giving donation. I think donation is donation, whether it's Independence Day or, any other occasion. If you want to give, you give. At the moment, I cannot see by giving donations can lead to committing fraud. Yeah, I don't see that.
Okay, all about sincere. Okay. I would like to say deeply sorry to everyone, to all the participants here and online, because I need to end this Q&A session because due to the limited time. Apparently, we still have enormous questions online, but we need to end our discussion session today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have finally come to an end part of this visiting professor program. Before I close the session, please allow me also to take some highlight points from this today's session. Okay, small scale, large scale fraud is still a crime. It's new knowledge for me. And once you try fraud or corruption, you will never stop. Hard to stop. You can't get enough. And sometimes we did notice that we do is a fraud because everybody doing it like it's a normal thing. But there are three common types of fraud in public sectors: misappropriation of assets, corruption and revenue assets improperly gained, and other misconduct. The key of dealing with fraud is to focus on prevention, improve controlling system in the institution, of course, educate and give people awareness about the knowledge of fraud. And we can, before we do that, we can start from ourselves also. And there are fraud mitigations, 4 theories, and all from all the theories. The hexagon is about pressure, opportunity, rationalization, stimulus, ego or arrogance, and collusions. And lastly, to uncover fraud, crimes, and evasion or financial obligation or malpractices committed through manipulation of accounting records. We need forensic accounting to find the evidence, and the evidence is oriented of court of law. Okay. So people, lastly, don't do fraud or corruption. I think Universitas Terbuka employee, we stay clean for that. And no more Korean drama. Okay. I would like to thank you for your presentation, Professor, and please give one small applause for the speaker for today and for your all your participation here today. And thank you. Back to you, Sila.
Okay, thank you Ibu Marsha for leading an interesting discussion, even though scary topic, as Professor Nafsiah said. Okay, thank you to Professor Nafsiah for sharing with us your valuable knowledge. And once again, let's give a round of applause to speaker and also to moderator. Prof. Nafsiah and Ibu Marsha, please remain on the stage, or maybe you can move to the in front of screen, because we would like to give the appreciation gift from the Dean of the Faculty of Economic, and take this opportunity for a group photo. So kindly join Ibu Merani Harsasi, Ibu Ani Melani, Ibu Olivia Idrus, Ibu Yeni Widyastuti, and Ibu Ratna Mata Dewi on the floor to take a group photo. Okay. Okay, we will take a group photo, please. Okay, thank you. Kindly return to your seat. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, this time, interesting topic of fraud mitigation and ethics in the public sector has been discussed by an eminent speaker, and there will be the source of knowledge development in this topic area. We are deeply honored to have Professor Nafsiah to share her views in this Visiting Professor Program. Today, 24 February 2023, in Universitas Terbuka. And we would like to send our gratitude once again to you all for your kind support, and thank you to you, those who are joining virtually. Please fill out the attendance and feedback form, which the link has been provided by committee, no later than 2 hours after this program ends to get the certificate. The certificate will be sent to your email address shortly. On behalf of all committees, we are sorry if there are any mistakes during this program. MC Laninin, thank you very much and see you on the next program. Waalaikumsalam. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.